Russian defenses paused, then Ukraine activated mine robots within the perimeter in less than 9 seconds. The mist-covered outskirts of Aperevka missile storage facility rested in silence at 4:30 a.m. Russian MiG-31 interceptors, each valued at $90 million, swept in low without warning, launching rockets that tore through the tree line from hidden pads. Attack helicopters Mi-28, worth $35 million per unit, released anti-tank missiles, while Tornado G MLRS batteries, costing more than $50 million, flooded the perimeter. This wasn't a random engagement. Moscow's S-400 resupply hub needed protection through a preemptive strike. In seconds, tranquility gave way to conflict. With the weather shifting like this constantly, how are you holding up? Drop a yes or no in the comments so we can check in on each other. Our previous video covered Ukraine's deep strike into Moscow. If you saw it, you know the airspace over Pryla isn't safe anymore. Ukraine retaliated instantly after Russia's opening bombardment. Su-35 fighters, each worth $80 million, descended through radar openings created by mobile electronic warfare trucks valued at nearly $5 million per unit, searching for vulnerabilities while pilots maintained altitude just below 500 feet above the tree canopy. UAV swarms, costing $120,000 each, spread out in intricate formations, compelling Russian air defenses to expose their locations and waste interceptors. Above, Su-34 strike jets worth $75 million each moved in with precision strikes, dropping JDAMER bombs valued at $3 million per unit on suspected radar installations and fortified command centers. The facility's outer structures trembled from explosions as defensive Su-30s, $80 million per aircraft, intercepted the approaching jets in spiraling dogfights, trading missiles and cannon fire at supersonic velocities. A follow-up wave of UAVs navigated through wreckage and haze, releasing smoke containers and electronic decoys to disorient Tor M2 units and S-400 crews. Each detonation triggered additional fires throughout fuel storage and communication arrays. Defensive flares illuminated the sky while ECM pulses disrupted Russian radar displays, creating phantom signatures that attracted incoming fire from Ukrainian strike groups. Above Aperevka, the airspace devolved into a chaotic mesh of contrails, haze, flames, and shrapnel. Split-second calculations governed every maneuver as missiles, rockets, and countermeasures pierced the morning fog. Russian interceptors climbed skyward only to explode uselessly against precision-guided ordnance while Ukrainian aircraft maintained tight formations to sustain offensive pressure. The sky above the depot transformed within minutes into a high-velocity arena of technology and expertise. Ukraine's synchronized air operation, merging fighter jets, strike aircraft, UAVs, precision munitions, and electronic warfare, started to overwhelm Russian defenses and prepared the ground for the armored offensive to come. Dawn's stillness vanished, supplanted by a deadly, rapid struggle for aerial dominance. While the air battle above Aperevka intensified, the ground offensive exploded into action. T-80BV main battle tanks, worth $22 million each, pushed forward beneath RM-70 rocket artillery cover, valued at nearly $4 million per battery, carving 100-yard breaches through the facility's exterior perimeter. Each barrage fractured concrete bunkers, destroyed fences, and opened paths for advancing infantry and mechanized forces. Backing the tanks, squads equipped with NLAW launchers, costing $75,000 each, engaged exposed BMP-3 infantry fighting vehicles, eliminating armored targets attempting to navigate the decimated outer compound. The tree line shook from explosions, and shellfire thunder was broken by tracer fire from Russian T-98 tanks, valued at $42 million each, as they worked to halt Ukraine's advance. Through the chaos, mine-laying robots worth $45,000 each advanced through smoke and debris. Their tracked frames positioned timed charges and makeshift obstacles along roads and secondary routes, directing Russian armor into predetermined kill zones. Intense fighting broke out near the northern boundary. T-80BVs traded salvos with T-9 as their 125mm cannons disrupting the morning mist. Ukrainian RM-72s launched subsequent barrages, pushing Russian crews to react under continuous artillery pressure. Infantry teams darted through damaged walls, employing smoke grenades and covering fire to capture critical warehouse positions and command points. In one yard, A small NLAW team ambushed two BMP-3s trying to reinforce the tree line. Explosions scattered twisted metal while distant tanks maintained their exchange, firing repeatedly. Dust and fragments saturated the air, making coordination lethal for both forces. By mid-morning, the combined impact of armored fire, artillery barges, and robotic mine deployment had converted the outer perimeter into a maelstrom of steel and flame. Russian defenses had buckled and been channeled into predictable patterns, granting Ukrainian forces complete control of the outer sectors. The tree line, formerly a defensive barrier, had become a crucible of metal, smoke, and thunder, with the armored spearhead driving deeper into Aberevka's core. This forward momentum establishes the foundation for what follows. Watch the next video to witness how Ukrainian forces maintain their offensive and penetrate even further into Russian territory. Hit like if you're enjoying the video. Comment 1 to back Ukrainian forces, 2 if Russia holds the advantage, 3 if you wish for peace. The tank warfare in the tree line reached a savage stalemate. Steel hammered steel, every detonation resonating for miles until Ukraine altered the battle's character once more. Not through firepower, but through silence. Mobile electronic warfare trucks rolled into position from rear columns, their tall antenna masts ascending like skeletal structures above the haze. Within moments, they released a spectrum-wide flood, suffocating Russian communications, transforming radar displays into static, and converting the battlefield into a gray wasteland of false returns. The Russian counteroffensive suddenly stalled. Tank commanders found only static when shouting over radios. Air defense operators awaiting targeting information faced blank displays. The silence wasn't tranquility, it was an ambush. Within that void, Ukrainian UAV relays orbited at 3,000 feet, silently marking enemy armor, artillery positions, and logistics vehicles with laser designators. Every movement inside Aberevka became a beacon, invisible to human eyes but crystal clear to waiting strike packages. Russian forces scrambled to compensate. Radar technicians in underground facilities rebooted equipment and attempted to penetrate the jamming, their screens flooded with phantom returns. Hostile contacts cluttered their scopes, mostly decoys, drones configured to emit false signatures. Still, some were genuine, weaving through the confusion, depositing smoke canisters and loitering munitions onto Russian columns. Tor M2 launchers responded by igniting, launching interceptor missiles that arced skyward. The missiles destroyed some drones mid-flight, scattering burning wreckage across the facility's rooftops. But the volume was overpowering. For each UAV eliminated, 2 more advanced, relaying coordinates through encrypted channels concealed by the EW curtain. The battlefield no longer resembled conventional warfare. Rather than artillery thunder and tank fire, the atmosphere filled with jammer humming, drone buzzing, and unsettling silence gaps between chaotic bursts. It had evolved into a perception duel as much as a firepower contest. Whoever could see clearly through the fog would dominate the battle's next stage. And within that tempest of false echoes and disrupted signals, Ukraine had already captured the advantage. Russian sensors were blinded by the electronic fog, but the decisive strike arrived moments afterward with targeting intelligence flowing from drones circling at 3,000 feet. Ukraine transitioned to full-spectrum bombardment. From nearly 40 miles distant, JDAMERs plummeted from the clouds, their precision warheads splitting hardened bunkers that once appeared invulnerable. Shock waves pulsed through the compound, penetrating blast doors and collapsing concrete revetments. Simultaneously, RM-70 rocket launcher batteries unleashed ripple volleys, their rockets streaking above the tree line like blazing spears. They pounded supply convoys halted near the depot's outer areas, shredding fuel vehicles and ammunition carriers in a shrapnel storm. Explosions cascaded across the complex in successive waves, each blast amplifying the next, transforming open terrain into smoking craters. The offensive continued. Drone-guided artillery from concealed firing positions bracketed command shelters with disturbing accuracy. Overhead UAVs transmitted corrections instantly, refining trajectories until shells impacted within meters of fortified positions. Within those shelters, Russian commanders crowded around darkened monitors, fighting to maintain command structure under relentless shock and concussive pressure. But Russia responded with matching intensity. S-400 interceptors lashed upward, destroying dams mid-flight in fiery bursts, while Tornado G launchers fired back from hidden pads deeper in the forest. Their salvos poured down across Ukrainian assembly areas, igniting surrounding courtyards. Every square meter of the facility became a death zone. Walls tore apart, vehicles overturned, ammunition stockpiles detonated in secondary explosions. For extended minutes, only thunder existed. Smoke and dust thickened the air until visibility fell below 100 yards. Soldiers on both sides battled half-blinded, trapped beneath constant fire rhythm. This wasn't a swift strike. It was a grinding endurance test, each side pouring steel into the other to determine who would fracture first. And though the ground burned white-hot, Ukraine's artillery barrage had clearly begun tilting the battle. The artillery exchange had devastated Aberevka, leaving courtyards cratered and bunkers fractured. But the depot remained standing. To complete the mission, Ukraine shifted from bombardment to close-quarters assault. To the haze and drifting smoke, motorized infantry aboard armored carriers charged toward the demolished outer gates. The perimeter wall ruins, punched through by dams and rocket fire, served as their breach point. Engines thundered, hatches banged open, and squads poured onto the ground with weapons raised, advancing through a battlefield resembling a twisted steel junkyard. Above, small quadcopter drones flew low, dropping smoke canisters to conceal the approach and fragmentation grenades onto machine gun positions still clinging to the walls. Within the compound, Russian defenders had fortified positions among warehouses and partially collapsed shelters. They converted every passage and storage hall into a strong point, forcing Ukrainian infantry to contest ground room by room, meter by meter. The Russians countered with air support. Tu-52 gunships swept in barely 200 feet above ground level, strafing Ukrainian columns with unguided rockets. Explosions rippled through the ruined gates, dispersing debris and earth across the assault formation. But concealed in the wreckage were manpads, their launchers steadied against collapsed concrete. As the helicopters banked for another attack run, missiles launched upward and struck their flanks, compelling the gunships to disengage under heavy fire. Inside the depot proper, fighting grew frantic. Ukrainian squads advanced systematically, securing one warehouse at a time. They breached steel doors with explosives, threw grenades into rooms thick with gunfire, then rushed in under suppressive fire. Every gain came at cost. Soldiers pinned in crossfire, floors collapsing from explosions, defenders refusing retreat. Yet momentum accumulated with drones feeding live footage into helmet displays and artillery prepared to strike any strongpoint marked with lasers. Ukrainian infantry pushed deeper. Gradually, Russian resistance splintered, positions falling sequentially. Each cleared passage represented not just tactical progress but another foothold seized from an apparently impregnable fortress. The battle had transformed again from long-range fire thunder to close-quarters combat brutality. And in that lethal grinding, Ukraine's infantry would determine Aberevka's fate. Close-quarters combat raged through the warehouses, but Russia refused surrender. From rear positions, BMT-3 infantry carriers and T-90M tanks charged forward in a frantic counterthrust, their turrets firing as they attempted to force Ukraine's infantry back through the destroyed gates. Engine rumble shook the compound, dust rising in waves as steel advanced toward combat. But the push never achieved full momentum. Above, Ukrainian UAVs orbited at just 2,000 feet, transmitting live coordinates to waiting artillery batteries. Within moments, precision rounds descended, bracketed the Russian armor, and transformed the counterattack into disorder. Explosions tore through the convoy, fuel trucks erupting into fireballs that illuminated the sky. The depot's internal fuel reserves, already compromised by earlier strikes, detonated in secondary blasts, launching flame columns hundreds of feet upward. With radar installations silenced and armored assault fragmented before gaining traction, the Russian defensive network began collapsing. What had been a stronghold hours before now resembled a labyrinth of burning ruins, severed communications, and gutted vehicles. The defensive line had fractured, and Ukraine was driving directly through the gap. The Russian counterattack had shattered, and with it, the final defensive threat dissolved. Aporevka missile storage facility was no longer a fortress but a wrecked graveyard. Ukraine had accomplished more than territory seizure. It had disabled a crucial resupply node for Moscow's S-400 network, severing the chain protecting the capital's western approach. The strategic impact was unmistakable, yet the question persisted. Was this merely one breach or the gateway to street combat inside Moscow itself? Amid the smoke, a Ukrainian medic extended water to a wounded Russian conscript. A reminder that even here, humanity survived. Please like if you enjoyed this video. Comment 1 to support Ukraine, comment 2 if you cherish peace and despise war, and comment 3 if you disliked my video.